This is BankCents, the podcast that makes sense of all things banking. If there's something you don't understand about banking or finances, you're not alone. Our industry experts are bringing you informative and enjoyable conversations that break down bank jargon and dive into hot-button financial topics. And now, BOS, a community bank located across Illinois and Missouri, presents BankCents. Here's your host, Greg Marantz.
Hi, and welcome back to BankCents, the podcast that makes sense of all things banking. I'm your host, Greg Marantz, Executive Vice President here at the Bank of Springfield. And on today's episode, I'm excited to talk about budgeting, as well as some financial tips for your financial success. We have a reoccurring guest on today, Monica Dyson, our Chief Marketing Officer here at the Bank of Springfield. Monica, welcome.
Thank you. Good to be here.
So to dive into our topics today, just to remind our listeners, we've actually done a couple episodes together. Our first episode was on some financial literacy and financial tips for your success. And then we also talked about budgeting in another episode. So we're going to dive right into that topic and kind of refresh everyone on budgeting. So what can you tell us to get us started on some tips and tricks for how to set up a budget?
So the basics of budgeting, as we talked about in the very first season, where you will sit down and you'll come up with all of your all of your income sources. So that's going to be, your job, if you have a second job, if you have child support, anything like that. So all of the income sources go on the one side. Then you sit down and figure out your expenses. So that's everything you're spending, which is everything from your bills to grocery shopping, gas, all of those things. Your spend, your save, which is obviously whether you're saving for an emergency fund or your retirement, whatever the savings are, and then share. So that's going to be donations if you're doing birthday gifts or saving for holiday time. Those things would fall under the share. So you're going to figure out all the income, all the expenses, compare the two. Hopefully that expense line is not as large as the income line. But if it is, then you sit down and you look for ways that you can cut back or ways you can save money.
Yeah, and I think one thing that we always talk about too is that it's really important to understand that your budget is not just set your budget and then forget about it. It's an ever-evolving thing that you have to look at sometimes, monthly, as well as every year you should look at it as well.
Absolutely. So things could happen in your life, whether you get married, you have a child, you change jobs, maybe move. So lots of forces could affect your budget. There are also outside things that are out of your control. Maybe your hours get cut back at work, so the income drops. Rising grocery costs, things like that. We're in an inflation period where costs are going up on things. So again, those expenses start creeping up, and that's out of your control. But how can you back those down, or how can you maybe increase your income to balance that out better?
Yeah, I think that's a key point, is to be flexible with it as well. We typically recommend you review your budget annually, so every year. But like you mentioned, things might change in the middle of the year. So you have to be willing to be flexible. If you're a planner, it's going to be hard to veer off from that plan. But you need to recognize, hey, things change, things happen. So you got to understand when it's the right time to pivot, and understand there is going to be a lot of different life changes or things that might happen to you through the course of the year that you have to understand and recognize. So one of the things we talk about as we go into budgeting and as you set your budget and as you change your budget as time goes on is that you have your own money personality, is what we call it. Explain exactly what money personality is.
So there are quizzes online, there are labels, and you can look that up if you really like to. But really what I want to make sure that people understand is your relationship with money could be different from mine, from yours. So just know your personality. Are you a spender? Are you a saver? Are you a planner? Are you flying by the seat of your pants? What do you need to do to help yourself stay on track? And understanding your relationship with money can help you do that. So just keep in mind as you're going through things, as you're researching on the internet, there is no right or wrong answer to this stuff. I mean, obviously, making sure you're not spending more than what's coming in isn't obvious. But as far as the tools to use and the things that you can do to stay on track, it's not a right or wrong answer or an absolute everybody needs to do it this way. It's that thing that's going to work for you. So if you're a spender and it makes more sense for you to automate your savings and make sure that stuff is taken out immediately when you get paid so you don't see that money and you're less likely to spend it, that may make sense for you. There are other people who need those bills automated and then they'll control their spending during the month and transfer that money at the end of the month. So it's whatever scenario works for you to stay on your track. A lot of people, can you challenge yourself to the no spend month? That was a big thing. And some people can do that, and some people, maybe you do a week, or maybe you just challenge yourself to go to the grocery store and stay on budget, total that stuff up on the calculator as you're walking through the store and really staying on track that way. So again, it's not a right or wrong. There's no absolutes here. It's what's that little voice in the back of your head that's going to help you stay on track.
Yeah, and a lot of it's just understanding yourself and what you like to spend money on. I would consider myself a saver, but I do like to spend money on trips and experiences and things like that. Whereas, buying clothes and material objects, that's not necessarily high up on my list. Right. So I know where I can, take away from one thing if I want to do something else. And still try to stay in my, saving mindset, because that's, shocker, I'm a banker, I like to say, right?
And we talked a lot about wants and needs. And when you get to those wants side, it's about prioritizing. And again, it's your relationship with money. It's what means the most to you, and how you prioritize how you spend those funds.
Yeah, and you mentioned wants and needs, and that leads us into our next topic, and that's finding a way to limit expenses and to control those expenses. So what are your top tips when you're looking at those? I know I have a few in my head, but what are your typical recommendations with that?
And again, there are lots of different things you can do. Some of the easy ones, looking for the best pricing, whether you're talking cell phone, or you're talking streaming, things like that. Shopping around, making sure that you've got the best price, making sure that you're doing the most economical thing for you. Things like insurance and things. Go out and price that. Make sure that you're on the best plan for you and one that fits best in your budget. Unused subscriptions.
Yeah.
Those are a huge one anymore.
Yeah, more so nowadays than ever.
Right. It's so easy to sign up for things now. And are you going back and reviewing and saying, am I really using this? Because the average person is not using everything they've signed up for. So could you cut some money that way?
And I think when you talk about the streaming services, that takes you back to the budgeting conversation we had earlier, is that's something you need to review. And that's why that budget is living and breathing, because, you might download, Apple TV so you can watch the new season of Ted Lasso. Well, then you stop using Apple TV after you're done with the season. Do you really need that? Yeah. Do you really need that subscription anymore? So that's when you have to constantly review that budget.
Absolutely. And do those subscription services fall under the needs or the wants? Because that's one of those easy ones that really feels like
I would say Ted Lasso is a need, but that's just my personal opinion.
So anyway, so looking at all of those expenses and seeing what you can cut back, eating out less. I mean, there's a reason meal prepping is so popular right now, and it's because you really can save money by planning out those lunches for the week instead of going out to eat all the time. That stuff really starts to add up. So, and just simply when you're grocery shopping, making a plan for the week, making a menu for the week, going in with a list. I used to use the example in some of the classes that I taught that one time I ran out of diced tomatoes. So if I go to the store without a shopping list, I'm going to buy diced tomatoes because I know I ran out of diced tomatoes one time, and then you end up with a pantry full of diced tomatoes and nothing to have for dinner. So, making sure that you're actually planning ahead and only spending money on the things that you need to spend on, looking at what's on sale that week and maybe planning the meals around that. And it's the easy little things like that you can do that eventually start to add up on those savings.
And it's nice not to be wasteful as well. As a father of two girls too, we always talk about, ask for what you're going to eat and not for any more. If you're going to ask for food, we expect you to finish it. But there's a lot of times they leave food on the plate and it's a little bit wasteful. And so it's teaching them that in their own right as well. Thanks again for coming on today. I think it's really important for everyone to understand their own budgeting process and understand that it's unique to themselves. I think that's one of the big themes of this episode that we can pass along to our listeners. Is there anything additional that you would like to add or that we missed and you'd like to cover about budgeting and some financial tips?
So one of the other things to stay on track with is your online shopping. That's another one of those things that's gotten really easy. And know yourself. So are you the kind of person who, if you're in person, will grab all the things, but you're more likely to rethink when you put them in that online shopping cart and you look at them again and go, oh, maybe I don't need that, and take it out? Or are you the opposite? Are you going to be better if you're shopping in person in the store, but online is just too easy and that money's just gone, and all of a sudden your porch is stacked with boxes? So again, not a right or wrong.
Sure.
It's a which one are you going to be better about? And when you're shopping online, make sure you're keeping in mind, are you paying fees? Are you paying shipping? Looking for that stuff. And are you buying additional stuff just so you can get the free shipping?
Sure.
Did you really save money if you've added more things to the cart just so that you didn't have to pay $10 in shipping? So just, again, not a right or wrong answer. It's just be mindful of what you're doing and what makes sense for you.
And online shopping's so easy nowadays. And you have people on the TikTok shop or even on Instagram ads. I mean, you can buy anything with a click of a button a couple times.
Social media ads, the emails, every time you buy from somebody, now you're getting the sales emails. Are you going to buy from them again, or should you just unsubscribe now so that you aren't tempted to do it again?
Yeah. Well, thanks for all the tips and tricks. I think it was really helpful for our listeners, and you brought up a lot of good points that I think we all need to be mindful of as we're focusing on our budget and our spending habits. If they have any additional questions, where can they reach out and kind of ask those questions of us at the bank?
You can always reach out to us here at the bank. We have lots of people who are experienced with budgeting. We have a blog that has lots of good resources out there, so go check that out. Or just flat out give us a call. We're happy to help.
Yeah, give us a call. Our blog's on our website at bankwithbos.com. Has a lot of really good information. And I think, in addition to that, if there's any topics that anyone would really want to hear about on the podcast or on the blog as well that we can really touch on and give them some more information on, I think we're always interested in doing that. Because that's kind of our goal with the podcast, is to give out more education
we're here
to
to
our
help,
listeners,
so.
our customers, our friends, families, and neighbors. I think it's really important. So thanks again for coming on. We really appreciate it. As always, thanks for listening to BankCents, the podcast that makes sense of all things banking. Until next time.
Is there something about banking that doesn't make sense to you? Submit your questions to us on Instagram Messenger or by email, BankCents@bankwithbos.com. Or if you're watching this on YouTube, comment below. We're happy to give you our 2 cents on a wide range of topics. Thank you for listening on Spotify, YouTube, or wherever you get your podcasts. And please leave us a 5-star rating and review so we can continue to bring you more educational content. Thank you for listening, and we hope you join us on the next episode of BankCents.